Well, lately, some activities from the floor of the Senate has been making the news, and some tough talking also, as you may have heard in our opening sequence. But this morning, we focus on the Senate for this period, and Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe joins us now. He's Chairman Senate Committee on Media. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Well, this morning, we just talked about the part that the Senate really came down hard on the regulatory bodies in the aviation sector concerning this disparity in airfares, how they need to up their game. They've not been doing much, as the Senate did say. But then, I mean, there are those who raise perhaps more questions saying, well, yes, that's on the one hand, but there are deeper problems than that. And is the Senate willing to go the whole hog on this matter?
Yes, we're going to do everything that is possible there. That is why the Senate now has mandated the Committee on Aviation to conduct a probe into everything surrounding the aviation sector. The fact really is not that it's not just airfares. There are all manners of things that are wrong. But the essence actually is to make sure that Nigeria is not shortchanged in our dealings with our international neighbors, the people that we do business with, in terms of foreign airlines and what happens in domestic airlines too.
Yeah, but are you also concerned that the fact that perhaps some agreements will pop up, and if they happen to tie our hands in those cases, in fact, some of them cite BASA just ahead of time. So are you also anticipating the fact that, wait a minute, we may have some hitches here in terms of some agreements, and how might you navigate when you come to that?
Yeah, if you listen to the debate, yes, the part of what the motion was talking about was a review of the laws, which means that if there are agreements that are skewed against us, it's our job to now look at those agreements and insist on a review. There are no agreements that are set in concrete. You must always be able, anytime that the need arises, to go ahead and review those agreements. So I think that BASA, whatever other agreements that are reached, can be reviewed.
Well, in recent times, we've seen a Senate, or let me say National Assembly, that seems to be responding to whatever it is the people want. I mean, all the people have to do now is make noise about one issue. The next minute you hear it being debated on the floor of the Senate. And one is left to wonder, I mean, much as that can be applauded, or maybe should be applauded, one is left to wonder, does the Senate have an agenda that they intend to follow? I mean, and they're sure they're not deviating from it, in the sense that if you're having so many probes almost at the same time, are you sure you're not biting off more than you can chew at once?
No, we don't think so. We have an agenda. At the beginning of this 7th Senate, I think there was an agenda that was listed out by the Senate President, and essentially inside it is that we're going to be different. We're going to make laws. We're going to make sure that Nigerians are the better for it. Nigerians are going to get more out of the present National Assembly than hitherto. So I've had to confront this question a couple of times from people who says it just probes everywhere. Well, it just probes everywhere, but it is because there are problems everywhere, and the only thing that the law mandates us to do is that if there are problems, we conduct an investigation into it.
So what's the place of the oversight function, for instance? Isn't that to even stop some of these problems you talk about, rather than let it go pretty bad before you start talking about probes?
Yeah, let's say this. If the oversight functions in the past had uncovered some of these things, they will have been dealt with. But if they are not uncovered and then it's in the public domain, don't forget also that we get interactions, correspondences, all manners of things from the public, and the public will not feel very happy when they ask you, this is a big problem, why are you not looking into it? It is your duty, and every aspect of our let's say government life is covered by one committee or the other. So any committee that has a problem within its own committee will now look into it. I'm not looking into the things concerning my committee because I do not have that much problems, I will say.
But would you say that these probes that we've had over time have been successful? Have they achieved the desired results that you seek?
For us, yes, because the Constitution itself, Section 88(2)b, tells us to do the investigation, uncover it, and then pass it on to the appropriate authorities. So we've been doing so. We've uncovered and we have passed it on. Subsequently, what we do is to do a check to be sure that what we uncover is taken due cognizance of by the executive. The problem we have, I think, is that sometimes it's slow to really get something immediate out of it, and people will get a little worried. You have done this, what is happening? But that is not a question for us, it's a question for the executive.
Because people are really bothered about that, knowing full well that yours is just some kind of advisory to the executive arm when you finally come up with some kind of recommendations or result out of these probes. But again, how can we ensure that these are followed to the letter?
I do not think that is purely advisory. Any executive, what is sold and desires to do well for the people, they would take very seriously what comes out of the National Assembly in terms of an investigation or a report, because it helps the executive. Everybody wants more efficiency in government. Everybody wants less, malfeasance in government. Everybody wants to see far more efficient government, and therefore, anything that you do in order to assist government perform better will be in the interest of the government to implement.
Perhaps maybe you clarify for us if the Senate as well, just the way we discovered with the House of Representatives, does the Senate also ask parastatals, agencies to assist, by way of bringing money in running or covering some of these probes live?
No. I don't even think the House of Rep does it. Our rules are clear. If a committee, like the Aviation Committee yesterday, was given an assignment, what the committee does is that they will do their breakdown of what they need and how they're going to go about it, and they submit it to either the Senate President or the House of Rep Speaker. He approves, or she approves in case we ultimately get a woman there. Then and releases funds for that. The National Assembly does not in any way ask for assistance. What the National Assembly gets and will not frown at will be capacity building. Sometimes if you tell me, okay, because I'm in information and there is something that will help me in media management, and you say there's a seminar, would you like to attend the seminar so that you can broaden your knowledge? That we do not frown at. But for no committee would go to any MDA and now say, we're doing this, give us this or give us that. That's totally illegal. That's why we have an ethics committee.
Just allow me coming here. Now, if your ethics committee should actually look at this critically now, ethically speaking, do you think, if I've taken you under the guise of capacity building somewhere overseas to have some kind of training, and you're supposed to probe me at the end of the day, and you find me culpable of some of these offenses, do you think that some of these honorable gentlemen and women would have the guts to say, you are guilty, when I've actually taken you out for training?
No, I think it depends on the integrity of the person concerned. Because at the end of the day, it still boils down to the person concerned.
Because so that we don't compromise all of that, shouldn't even the National Assembly just stay away from such?
Yeah, but that's what we do. I'm only saying that we stay away. We're not, but sometimes we do capacity building to ourselves, and we also invite the agencies to join in capacity building to make sure that they also do their job well. So I don't think that there's anything in there that will compromise somebody. At the end of the day, like I said, it comes back to the integrity of the person who is conducting this. Because at the point at which you are given a mandate by the Senate, don't forget that what actually the committee represents is either the Senate or the House of Rep. You're just an agent for them. So if there's an investigation going on, it's actually the whole Senate. That is why when anything is going on, even if you're not a member of the committee, you can come and join. You can ask questions. If you're interested enough, you can come and be part of it. Nobody will stop you.
One of the memorable probes that the Senate conducted was that of the BPE. And then there was recommendation that the Senate made that some heads roll, if I remember properly, the DG. What has happened to that ever since then?
The report is with the president.
And that's it?
Because the Bureau for Public Enterprise are under the presidency.
That's where we'll have to leave that particular probe report, right?
Well, our job is to investigate and, like I said, pass it on. So I won't be competent to make a pronouncement on, what has happened. Okay. But like I said, sometimes these things take time.
As much as 4 years?
No, I think the probe was just a few months ago.
Yeah, but if they're not implementing or acting upon the recommendation of the Senate,
yes.
I mean, Nigerians have that impression of, okay, well, who knows? Maybe any other probe, no matter how weighty the recommendations are, will turn out this way.
Well, I think we passed through this before. Yeah,
have we?
I just said that
no, not
any government that wants to be very good, efficient, and all that will take it serious. Actually, in some countries, there is a committee that interacts with the government. In Zambia, they have a committee for compliance
with recommendations
that come out of the assembly. But Zambia is a special case because the president is from a minority party and the majority members of the National Assembly are from another party. So you see that they are, they have what do you call it now? They are more or less antagonistic to each other.
Some kind of friction, anyway.
Precisely.
So one would think that because majority at the Senate and majority at the House of Reps are from one party and the presidency is from the same party, they should be more amenable to the recommendations that will come out from the National Assembly.
Of course.
But has that been the case?
Ought to be.
Has that been the case? Because the key word you just used in that statement is ought. They ought to be.
They should be. I think that they are. The problem, like I said, is that we have every time we want things done right now. It's still a hangover of the military. And so, if, for example, we recommend that you should lose your job, and it goes to the executive, you have signed a contract when you were given that job, so the terms of that contract must be looked into. Government will not just wake up and fire you because it will open itself to litigation in case there is such a. So maybe matters will not go to the Attorney General to look into the terms, and then there will be a discussion. Should we do this? If we do this, what is the implication? So all manners of things lead to some delay, and it is just that delay that worries people. I don't think most of the things,
Senator Abaribe,
eventually get
every time we have a chance to put you here in the studios, we always say, look at time now, because let's leave the probe for a moment. We had the DG Office of the Budget recently, and we talked about the budget. Let's look at the budget, and Nigerians are asking, who is holding the budget? The National Assembly? Well, listen now, that's the Senate.
The National Assembly has done with the budget.
So where is the budget now? Who is keeping the budget? Today is 28th day of March.
It does not become law until it is signed. So the National Assembly finishes its own.
Or rather, 29th.
Does, of course, we still have up to the 31st for the old budget to run out. And even then, the law allows us to continue to spend until to continue to spend up till June.
But who is keeping the budget?
Right now?
Yes.
I think the budget should be in the presidency right now.
So
the president not in the country,
after 31st, that means we still have some couple of days after 31st. What happens?
No, like I said, the law allows us, Nigeria, to continue to run a spending up till June.
6 months.
6 months. What happens is that you're now supposed to spend up to 50% of the previous year's budget. That means that there's a leeway. And I think that those who framed the Constitution knew that there will be periods when there will be this type of lag, and inserted it in the Constitution. So I think right here, there is nothing that is amiss.
Chamberlain, now he's talk about the Constitution. Maybe we should even talk about the Constitution review, because if if you talk about leeway, some would say, well, there's some kind of deliberate move by those who crafted that section of the Constitution just to be lazy about how they go about running the affairs of the country. Because if truly we're serious about it, I remember the Senate President talked about it at the time people passed the budget, and he said, well, next time he would want to see the budget coming before the other year, and he said that should stop. So with that section of the Constitution being left alone the way it is now, don't you think that is rather impossible to bring the budget maybe by November?
I do not think
September?
so. Well, the presidency has promised.
They've been promising
that this year it will come on time. So we will wait for that.
We had that same promise last year. I'm very sure it's still on tape.
No, last year was an election year,
people look at
and all manners of things happen. You have to get new ministers. They have to get acquainted with their ministries. They have to take time to go through it. And don't forget that the last person, the last few persons that came, the coordinating minister for the economy came later than others, and then had to redo the budget, had to change some of the parameters, and then so these things necessarily
So what's
take
the Senate
time.
stand when
Now that there is a template there, I'm pretty sure that it will be faster.
So what's the direction of the Senate towards this constitution review?
Well, right now the process, because last year we couldn't do anything because there was no money in the budget last year for constitutional review. At this time, so what they're just doing is taking in memoranda, bills, everything that relates to it, and then they're keeping it. There's a committee, standing committee that's already in place. It's headed by the Deputy Senate President, and everything that you want to do there, we're waiting. 2 weeks ago, I submitted an amendment to the Constitution, which was given to me by Chief Olisa Abakoba to bring, and that, that's another thing that most Nigerians don't seem to get. You can, as you are here, propose an amendment to the Constitution. The only caveat is that you're going to pass it through your representative or through any representative who is willing to bring it forward. And anything that you want under the sun, you can bring it. At the point at which the Constitutional Review Committee starts to meet, they will also take it, codify it, and send it out to the public for reactions. And of course, they're going to conduct public hearings on it all over the country.
But if it borders on Sovereign National Conference, it might be thrown out.
No, it will not be thrown out. It will be how to put it now, reviewed, and the public will have to make their own case on it.
Well, it might be hard to find a senator who will want to take it for you.
Yeah, I'm sure they can find one.
Sulaiman wanted us to leave probes, but I'm interested in one particular one, the oil probe, the or subsidy probe that the Senate conducted even before the House started, because they started that probe when it was mooted that, most likely subsidy was going to be taken away from the budget for 2012. And if I remember clearly, Senator Bukola Saraki was worried that 1.3 trillion naira as a then had already been spent on subsidy, when only so much money was appropriated. 1.3 trillion. Yes, that's what I said. Was already appropriated, was already spent, when only 245 billion was appropriated for that.
Yes.
First of all, how does the Senate check overspending by the executive? I mean, are there any measures that are taken when so much money is appropriated for something and much more money is spent at the end of the day?
Well, let's put it this way: the Senate or the House of Representatives does not go to open the books of ministries, parastatals, presidency, wherever, and ask you every day, let me see your balance sheet. That doesn't happen.
You don't do that every day, but they have
we don't do it every day. So, but the point that at any point at which the particular committee that is involved visits or goes on oversight, you ask them to let you know how they are keeping to the budget approved for them by the National Assembly. That is the only way we can know. So there's absolutely no way we can know beforehand if somebody just decides to spend over the budget, because they don't submit to us first. I think within the ministries and departments, they have the auditors and so forth who will approve those things. What happens to us is that when we come and then you bring out your spending and all that, then we can query. This is not conforming to the budget. Why? And I think it is those things that led to the motion for an inquiry.
When is the report going to come out?
The report on
of the Magnus Abe.
The Magnus Abe. I think the report is being written now, because if you remember, they started, but they had a problem. It was not public. It was just public for the first day, because the Senate didn't have the funds to do a live telecast. Then the House of Reps started, and they had funds for live telecasts. And of course, people are glued to the live telecasts. It is the same actors too who are supposed to, flit in between both and
the House.
Yeah, so I think that they just gave a little time for the House to finish before they now came to the Senate to finish its own. So the report is going to be ready soon.
You can't give us a specific time.
I think Magnus himself will be in a better position to say when.
Okay, but what might be the thinking of Senate concerning if there were to be a public policy or a policy saying public officials should fly economy class in order to reduce perhaps cost of governance and maybe recurrent expenditure, if you will?
I think some countries do it, and I think that is the way to go. If you listen to the debate yesterday on the aviation fares and all that, we found out, or it's been found out, that up to 80% of those who fly, business, first class, and other, are government officials. So they're actually flying on government money. But that is a policy directive that can come from the presidency. We do not approve such policy directive. The president has no obligation to come to us and say, for how I'm going to run my government, you must approve. No. The law does not let us interfere in that way. So if the presidency says, this is what we want and this is how it's going to go. For example, last year the presidency said we're cutting all overheads by 25%. And everybody agreed. We cut our own, the National Assembly budget. And we actually cut by 40%. And we found out later, of course, that it was just observed in the breach. It wasn't observed everywhere.
Because people are worried, and some are already asking some questions as to the rationale behind cutting down of all of those, when some of the probes also take as much as 30-40 million naira to conduct just a single probe.
the bulk of the money you spend on probes comes from public live telecasts. Most of the money you spend on probe is not that expensive. It's between 3, 4, 5 million. But because you have to pay 3.5 million an hour, it's a lot of cost. So if you do a 2-day probe, and you're doing that and you do 4 hours, you can see how you can just calculate it. It's so huge.
Is the Senate still going to insist on the CBN bringing their budget before them?
Well, the budget has been done. The CBN did not bring its budget. The particular committee concerned, the Committee on Banking, wrote the CBN. That is from the Senate. The Committee on Banking also in the House wrote the CBN, and the CBN wrote back and said, we are not obligated to send our budget to you because our law, the law setting up the CBN, states that we are supposed to bring our budget to our board. That is just an interpretation. But under the law, Section 89 states very clearly, 88 and 89 of the Constitution, it says very clearly that the National Assembly has the right to inquire and get any information that for any matter for which we make laws for. So, ipso facto, if the National Assembly has made a law for the CBN, then that right is already embedded in the Constitution. Secondly, the law says any law that is in conflict with the Constitution is moot. The Constitution takes precedence. But the CBN still insists we're not going to do it. So,
do you think they have something to hide?
I have no idea. I have no idea. But I think that it will be resolved. And it will be resolved in either of two ways. It's either you go and insist on a judicial interpretation, or you amend the law to remove that aspect that says that you must report to your board or whatever, so that nobody hides under it and says, I'm not going to do this. I'm not competent to answer the question of why. Why we were just a little bit bothered about it was that we think that everybody talking about transparency, everybody talking about let's see what you're doing. Previously, NNPC never used to bring their budget, but last year they brought their budget in this last exercise. And if NNPC could also do that or bring their budget, we didn't see any reason why the CBN will refuse to do so.
So the expectation is that before the next budget year, all of this should be sorted out, and you should be able to see.
We hope so. We think that it should be. We think that everywhere in the world now, we are moving towards transparency, we're moving to openness in government, and the clamor is also here. And we do not think that there's any government department that ought not to open its books for the public to know.
So the Senate has got questions for the CBN then?
Well, we do, but the committee will have to deal with that.